magazines and books and all that. So I was seeing that, but then seeing the internet and where it was coming. So for me, I saw the value in that and said, man, this is definitely where I'm going to see it so much faster and so much easier. And if everybody connects, wow, just imagine the kind of the ability for people to work together. So, that was just getting started. And it was the first year or two. So just to encourage you, it's always hard when you're the trendsetter, when you're, the early adopter, because, it feels like, man, we're trying to get people on board and jump into this. And I remember it being like we were just talking to maybe 50 people a week, maybe one every 3 weeks would say, yeah, okay, I'm going to try this website thing. And we were having to give them away, man, $500 to build a website that, took forever then because we were still learning. So I remember just doing that. And then a year, 2 years later, 3 years later, and eventually we were doing 200-300 websites, building a whole staff up and then bringing on hosting. And then now it's ubiquitous. Everybody has a website. You have to have a website. So you saw that trend come, and then you see things from cell phones being on their little mobile phones and going on with that. And everybody's like, I got the big brick phone or, just that technology. And now you have a phone in your hand that they say is, 1,000 times more powerful than the same technology that was used for the moon mission. So you're thinking, wow, in our hands, we have something that's that much more powerful. And boom, now that's ubiquitous from having a smartphone. Pretty much everybody has one. Gaming, the gaming community, people playing video games, same thing. Boom. I mean, just so all these things from streaming services, where that's come. And I remember being at the beginning of all those things and thinking, these are amazing. I can just see where that's going. And I'm fortunate, to kind of always be involved in those things and at least being able to take advantage of it and grow with it. And then here we are, in this new brave frontier called the virtual space. And that has a lot of different, definitions to it. You look at it saying, okay, well, I mean, people are saying there's pure virtual when you get the Oculus stuff and you're in the VR world and you're kind of like, really doing it. But, still kind of these environments that we're in right now, doing the Zoom, calling them virtual spaces, or in here, even a virtual space, it's still kind of a 2D space, and moving into that 3D realm. But still, it's virtual outside of physical. So to say we are in a virtual environment and people are doing things virtually, and how do we, take that and quantify that and expand that into where we're going to move and what we're going to do with it moving forward. And I think, again, to me, what's blowing me away is coming from, again, all those backgrounds. And I say all that to say, for me, I just remember knowing it. It's always like a gut thing. You feel it. You're in the middle of something. You go, man, I definitely know this is going to blow up. This is going to be huge. This is kind of where things are going, whether I liked it or not. Even if it was something that was, you might be like, I don't know, it's a two-edged thing here. It could go both ways, but you still see it's where it's going to go. Maybe like AI. You take AI and where that's going, and a lot of this is all tied in and can be tied into that. But you see where that's going, whether we like it or not. So I would recommend always be looking. My financial planner in me says, always be looking at that stuff too, to make some quality investments and thinkings into things. But again, always make sure you're doing it with don't ever invest what you don't have. So try to be always as I tend to be conservative because I want to make sure that whatever I'm putting it into, it's going to have success, and I'm not just throwing money against something. But the one thing you can do is you can say, hey, if I see a trend and I can get involved in it and I can plug into it and I can maximize what the potential is and start learning those skill sets and pulling them and putting them into my own, arrow, that arrow in my quiver, then I can start doing some pretty amazing things with it. And of course, there's ways to monetize these things. And that's a big part of what I want to talk about is for you guys, you all know that and you're all here. So obviously, but for those who aren't here and are maybe hearing this and going, hey, how do I make pull that together and say, what's the value statement for me and what I'm looking for? So for me, when I look at kind of what's occurred recently with the COVID, you had a technology from virtual or these kind of spaces, I guess I'd call them pseudo virtuals, but even those pseudo virtual spaces, nobody really knew what Zoom was. Nobody was like, oh, Zoom, and we used it. Everybody, we had GoToMeeting or you Zoom or you're Skyping, and you would do those things, but you really weren't using them for much more than just, hey, I'm going to call up my family member from here or there. I'm going to have, just a few meetings here and there. People would jump into some web, GoToMeetings or some Zoom meetings, but it's amazing that something that was probably still 3 to 5 years from really starting to hit that critical mass all of a sudden due to COVID-19 just jumped right up, and now you're there. And so again, we're kind of in a perfect space and a perfect world with all of this that's going on. So for me, where's the value? Where do you see value? And I think the value is just looking at what was already occurring in the physical world and saying, how do you transition those things here? That's a big part of the value. And a lot of it's going to be, how can you not only make money in these worlds and utilize your skill sets already to create value and create monetization or revenue streams, but how do you maximize it to save money? And I think that's one of the biggest things too. It's kind of you got the two sides to look at. So and, it's amazing to me because so many people, some of my biggest obstacles, I think I would have been discussing before, trying to convince people like back in the web development days, like, hey, everybody needs a website. Like everybody needs to be utilizing virtual worlds or virtual spaces or pseudo virtual somehow, some way to continue to grow and move their businesses forward, because without that, you're going to find yourself getting, and I hear it all the time. I mean, I'm talking to even you guys we're probably inviting people in here and they're just like, oh man, yeah, I'm trying to, I got to work out, go here or there. I'm trying to get a gig, or I'm trying to do something here. I'm trying to, make some money here, but I can't do anything until COVID's lets me go back to what I was doing over here. Or my business right now has got everything locked down, or we're on part-time, and we all know the stories. So, but then you look at people who are saying, man, I'm using stuff every day. I'm on a Zoom call every day. I'm in some sort of a meeting every day, or I'm out there doing speaking engagements every day. I know some of you in here, I think a lot of you might know Dave Austin, mutual friend of ours, and he'll be in here speaking in the Spark campus. Hopefully be a regular here with us for months and years to come. But just chatting with him, and he was explaining, it's like I couldn't believe I'd be busier now than I was before everything happened. But before, I was having to get on planes and travel, and I have to schedule all that stuff in, and I might be able to make it to one meeting and be there for those few days, and then but just the expense and all the travel and everything, the timing and trying to schedule it all. He goes, I might be able to do like 50 things in a very compressed amount of time, but here was able to do hundreds and hundreds of speakings over the last few months and get in front of 100 times more people than I ever have, and I'm getting paid way more than I ever have, because all of a sudden now that's what's in front of me, and people are utilizing that, and that's what I'm realizing. Wow, what a way to. So I have more time. I don't have to do all that other stuff. I get to hang out in the, in the mountains here in Utah, and enjoy my home and be around my family on a more regular basis. But I'm doing more business than I ever did before. So there's huge value there, and just him maximizing what has occurred in his world for speaking and coaching and all that stuff. So, but some of the obstacles would have been, obviously you've got things like age. People are like, I'm too old, I can't do this. Well, I think the big value is that, well, that's not true. I mean, you're valuable as a person. Your capacity to always learn, always grow. The thing that's up here is amazing. It doesn't shut down just because you're getting older. Might get a little slower. You might have to keep a little sharper. We may have to do some things that, keep us fresher, better diet, a little more sleep than normal, but whatever we can. But just keeping it sharp, continuing to grow and learn. That's what it's there for. It's there to continue to keep it challenged and make it develop so you can add those skill sets. And so, age, not really. I've learned during all of this right now, there's so many people that are kind of got forced into it, and then they're like, oh, this isn't as bad. My mother-in-law, she's out there rocking this stuff out and being like, yeah, this is actually a lot easier than I thought, and this is cool. And she kind of actually thinks it's neat. So a lot of people, it's like, oh man, I can't really jump into it tech-wise. I'm not a tech person. Yeah, really nowadays all you need is a computer, and if you can work a mouse and a keyboard, which most people can, and if you got the phone and you're kind of doing that, you're used to that, then you're kind of used to some technology stuff. And smart TVs, smartphones, smart refrigerators, you can talk to your Alexa now. I mean, everybody's, again, all these things have become more ubiquitous, like I keep saying. Everybody has it, everybody sees it, or you're around people who have it, and not as foreign to people anymore. So I think all those things coming together are making it where, again, you're looking at this new frontier of the virtual space, and I'll say virtual and pseudo-virtual always, because I think you'll always use both together. It'll be hard for everybody who's not going to be running around in the future, probably holding on to their gyro sticks and with their VR goggles, kind of, you'll have definitely places for that, but I think you'll always, like anything, you'll have, reasons to use different platforms for different things, and they're going to be, you know, effective for whatever they're meant to do. And then hopefully people learn how to maximize them and build things on top of them as they go. So, but for me, I wanted to say, again, for all of us who are definitely in the space and moving forward, um, change is a big one. People having to change, learn something new. But again, change is coming. You gotta go with it. You gotta roll with it. And I think this has showed a lot of people that over this time as well. That's why it's kind of relevant, because it's forced a lot of people to say, hey, I've got to be willing to change. I've got to be willing to stay positive. I've got to be willing to get out of the box on some things. I've got to be willing to maybe learn some tech and plug some of those things in and become more proficient at them or adept at them, so I can do things more effectively and not become obsolete. Where the world's going, the ability to do things on a computer are more and more in demand. And if you're really wanting to find big value, is if you can learn how to add those tools to your toolbox, then you can also travel more. You can do this stuff from a phone or a laptop in most cases, not necessarily where we're at, but using virtual or pseudo virtual stuff anywhere on the planet. You can be there and you can be utilizing it and maximizing it and making money on it, monetizing it as you go. So one of the things that, again, I wanted to share, and you guys, some of you know the story, but kind of what forced the coming together of at least our crew here for the Spark Virtual was really all of us kind of coming against the same obstacles, where we had things going on in our business worlds, conferences, meetings, get-togethers, things we were monetizing, or whatever we were doing, from events to hangouts, mixers, one-on-one, even doing one-on-one stuff when you're a manager or you're a coach or whatever. When you can't do that stuff anymore through normal means, having an alternative, and so we were all sitting down with the partners. We kind of all came together and we're just like, man, here's where I'm struggling. Here's kind of what I'm up against obstacle wise. And everybody had the same story. So we came together and started looking for a place to do the things we were trying to do in our businesses, and searching, finding some things that were close, but pretty expensive for what they didn't offer. And a little bit, just, you could tell right out of the gate, it's like, okay, this is going to be kind of almost like, just sticking a Band-Aid on something and let's hope it works for a while. And then, but then what can we do with it from there moving forward? I didn't really see future. None of us saw really a big future moving forward with it. So coming across a place like this that we have now here with the SparkVC.com, now having this, when we got in here and we saw this, it was like the coming together of like, wow, everything we can't do and we're trying to do we need 8 different tools? So the value was, for us, a big part of value was going, I don't want to spend, and I know none of them wanted to either, spend a lot of money on 18 different solutions so you could solve 18 different problems. It's kind of when you golf, if you're a golfer, you got all these different clubs for, the distance to the hole and what you're trying to do. So you have to carry that whole bag around with all those clubs in it. And, you better make sure you didn't forget a club that day, or you know how to use them properly. And so it was amazing to come into this place and go, all the clubs are in one spot, one bag for us to use as it should be, for us to pretty much accomplish and do everything we want to do. So that was huge value, because when you start looking at the pricing of all the different tools, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars we'd be spending versus what we ended up spending for a package and a tool that's developing, growing. It's always in constant, betterment. And so we were looking at that going, well, this is a great tool and it's flexible, customizable, everything we want. So the power in using virtual, again, I'm talking kind of, for me, that 30,000 foot view, looking at all this stuff and then trying to bring it down to how you can use it today and how you can make money with it today and maximize value out of it. So that's kind of where we came from, looking at all these options and then finding one that was like, this really, ticks all the boxes. Then not being afraid and not procrastinating to jump in and say, let's do this, let's work it, let's start building from this point. And what's been amazing, I know it even right now, we're still in the early stages of rolling this out and getting the word out and again, we're the early adopters. So a lot of people, like I was saying earlier, when I was selling, trying to sell 50 websites a week and you get one person maybe a month who buys the website because they go, what the heck is a website? I never even heard of this thing. It's still the same way. People are going, what is a virtual space, virtual campus? Like Zoom, right? You're like, no, it's not like Zoom. It's a lot different. It's a lot bigger, broader. You've got a lot more tools in the toolbox, and got to really show you. I got to bring you in here and show you. But the biggest thing we're finding is we bring people in, and kind of to bring it to the big value part is where we found value was, I think, on a lot of levels. So for me, affordability, a lot cheaper than anything I saw out there that you could be doing, especially compared to physical. Being able to save money from doing events that were costing hundreds of thousands of dollars to do just for a couple of days, and then have booths in there that were tens of thousands of dollars, and then having to set up food and all the things you'd have to do just from an event standpoint. All the expense that went to that, and all the marketing expense that went to that, bringing in all the staff and all the people. And so you start adding that up, and just to do one thing, I know a lot of event folk who've lost a ton of money and lose a shirt, from festival eventing to, just conference eventing, workshop eventing. So just the ability to bring that down, scale as needed, huge value in the flexibility of being able to kind of pay for what you need, let the expense of the usage pay for what it is. That's huge value. And that's kind of a more of a savings side, but also protecting your cash flow, which is huge. So there's always huge value in protecting your cash flow, keeping your cash flow, and trying to make sure that it's being utilized the best way that it can, so it maximizes what you're trying to accomplish. For me, that was a huge one. It's global. The value in having it be global was amazing. Couldn't do that on the physical stuff. We would be like, go in and say, hey, it's going to cost you. If you're going to come here, you're going to have to fly here, you're going to have to drive here, you're going to have to be up in a hotel or hang out for, going on. So, you got the ticket costs, you got the hotel costs, you got the travel costs, and you got to have the food cost. And, it adds up. Could be anywhere $1,500 to $2,000 plus for anybody just coming to a 3-day or so event. And only so many people could come. So you're limited on the amount of people that could come into a physical space, again, versus virtual. So having virtual, the value of being able to now expand whatever it is you do to being, there's still limitations on some things, but you can still work within those and expand above it. But the ability to have 10,000 people for pennies on the dollar, really, comparatively, to having 10,000 people at a huge event that you've got to rent that entire space and block that off. So there's huge value for there, and for that, and being able to do it on a global basis, which is amazing. So the reach, huge value in your ability to reach more people, connect with more people in a much broader sense. Again, I kind of said it earlier, but here, again, in this space, scalable. And I'm talking a lot of where we're at, but even if you're using Zoom and the GoToMeetings and what people have done in those spaces. So, let me show a little bit of, the way at least that's being used too. So you take like a Zoom, probably the biggest one now, name-wise, that really everybody's using. So when you have that conversation now, it's kind of like saying, hey, you got a Kleenex, and people go, and so now it's like, hey, I'm going to do a Zoom meeting. They could be doing probably a GoToMeeting or something else, or Skype, and they would still say Zoom, because I think everybody's just gotten used to saying it's Zoom. So it's synonymous with doing these screencasting kind of pseudo-virtual meeting spaces. But, the ability to, again, scale that up too is limited even in that. They've done a good job of expanding it, but even that's become, before you couldn't do certain things out in the real world meeting because of what was going on with the COVID. But even before, you still couldn't bring all those people in from around the world. So again, I love the flexibility, I love the scalability, and I love the global ability from even what Zoom has to offer. But in here, what we're doing here in the Spark, the ability to scale this stuff, because we can actually add an auditorium, 1,000 seats here, 1,000 seats there, even if we need another campus. If we said, hey, we want to split this up and go into, have one just for a specific thing, just for one sector of what we're doing niche-wise, you can do that, and you can grow. Worst case scenario too, you just pay for server capacity if you have to. Just go, hey, it's growing so fast, and we need more space to scale up, so we're going to pay to actually bring in more server capacity so we can have more people in here. So I love it that from a technology side, you have some scalability, where at some places you hit a limit. You're going to be in a sized auditorium or venue or whatever, and it's locked. Once you're there, it's there. But here we can go from having 2 people meetings in this space to having, right now up to the 10,000 that fits within the space, and it's been tested for. So before we have to say, hey, we need to scale that up and pay for something, but there's still scalability. We could still pay to go. We need to pop that up to 20,000 or 30. What's that going to cost? Because on our growth and what we're trying to do. So again, there's a scalability potential there where brick and mortar, a little harder. Being a real estate guy for years, if we were in a 5,000 seat place and they're like, man, we got 20,000 people coming to this thing, you'd be like, well, we're going to have to set up screens outside if the codes will let us, and the city ordinances will let us do that. But if not, then we're probably going to be stuck. So, yeah, because we're probably not going to be able to blow out the back room fast enough to build on an extra 5,000 square foot or whatever we need. So, anyway, I love that about it. But some of the biggest things too, and I want to, at least for you guys, because I do want to, probably not going to be a lot of Q&A, but if there is, I want to leave a little time for that. I also want to do something maybe a little different, since we got a lot of our people here, is maybe take a few minutes at the end to do a little brainstorming, talk about some of the ideas and stuff you guys have, and maybe I'll make a list of those and we'll capture this as we're kind of talking through some of these things. But for me, what I love again about virtual space is that, and seeing what happened. I guess for me, watching some of the obstacles get overcome that a year or two ago, and we were looking at it and talking about it, and even Vinny, we got to give, Vinny's like the grandfather of this, so he was like the super early adopter, 7 years ago or whatever it was. It was amazing that you were even doing that then, and I remember you saying, hey, I'm gonna do this thing and pop it out, and you did it, and it was, even for back then, it was a great turnout, and have anything that we have now as we're starting to roll up. So it's going to be amazing as, again, we bring more and more people here and they see the vision, they see what they can do, see the possibilities. It's going to be amazing to watch all that. But Vinny, back in those days, being the guy going, hey, I think we can do this thing, and here's what I would do, and all those obstacles that I know you got met with back in those days, and I was hearing, and even I saw, trying to think about doing it ourselves from the Music Starts Here side, we were like, man, I'd like to do a virtual thing, but boy, there's a lot of things to jump over. And now, because of technology where we're at, most of them are gone. And I will say that, because of COVID, unfortunately, but it accelerated the adoption, the early adoption of this platform. Environments has just accelerated to the point of where now people have figured out the overcoming the objections. So a lot of those objections we were been dealing with before really aren't there. Now it's mainly just getting people into the spaces. And it's funny because the obstacles you have now is like, man, I love it. I just can't click on a name and teleport to that person instantly. That would be great. It's more of like all these little features and functionalities and more like nuanced things like, boy, if I could have, something that's, my favorite color, that'd be great. Or if I could have an outfit with a mohawk and, and if we could do this or that, but it's all these like experiential fun extras. It's not a lot of the functionality things or can I do business here? Because now you've got education from all of the schools now have been doing, home-based, online education stuff. So it's all being done that way. Doctors that I've talked to are doing telemedicine stuff, and you've got therapists doing teletherapy. You've got real estate agents. My wife being a real estate agent over the last few months doing, it's amazing all the virtual tours we were doing. The people didn't even ever come to this state. They're just walking around with the camera showing them something, and they're doing a virtual tour that was filmed, and they could walk through it online, and all the stuff was virtual. They never came to the house, and you're selling more houses than you've ever sold. So it's proving itself out that the value is there. Is there value in virtual? Absolutely, because everybody is now getting to the point where they're going, and that's what I love about people. Humans are like, hey, how do we overcome that? How do I take advantage of this situation and make it work? If it's something saying I can't do it, how am I going to do it? And finding creative ways to get over the obstacles and over the objections, and it has been amazing to watch. So we're more in a space now where we're starting to hone in and perfect the experiential part of it. And so there's huge value in the ability to from fitness trainers to financial planners to music conference conventions, business coaching, all of the things that all of us have been a part of doing. Now you have tools that are being used all the time and every day to do it, and people are now starting to think of ways to refine and perfect them, like going from carrier pigeon that I know Vinny used to use to now using the cell phone, which is amazing. Smartphone that we have. Sorry, Vinny, I didn't mean to date you there, but carrier pigeon, we still have to use that every once in a while. But I would say that if you can look at what it is we're doing here, especially for our crew, start looking at the different ways that you can monetize it. Now I'm going to give you some ways that I think, that you guys are here with us. A lot of you are here with us every day. We've been hammering this for a crew of our, a core and a group of our own peers that we've been bringing in. So we're really sharing this stuff every day. But to me, you got the value, whatever you're doing outside on your own. So if you're using it right now for educational stuff, if you're using it for marketing yourself, do that more, whatever you're doing. This is an open playground, and it's a great place to bring people and just start, getting them excited about how to be here and let them start, getting their wheels spinning on how to use this platform and how to use us really to do that stuff. So some of the ways to monetize it, again, from what we're doing inside the Spark is, event stuff. If you wanted to bring events in here, to actually say, hey, I want to have an event in there, I want you guys to do an event, partner with you, or utilize a space here to do an event. And I'd love to in a virtual space because things have been shut down out there, or I want to still continue to supplement what it is I already do. I've been able to reach 500 people out physically, but that's always been kind of limited here. And I've always had people from all over the country or even around the world who would love to be a part of whatever it is I do. But I've had to say no, or I've had to say, hey, if you can't, it's going to be expensive to get here, they can't come. But now that's not the case. Now you can still do something physical, offer it to those who can be there, and then you can do something supplemental on the virtual side and say, bring you in here. And so there's a ways to monetize that and ticket the event, make money, bring in sponsors to that event and make exhibitors for using the exhibitor hall, and can rent the space for rentables for people who want to be in here or be inside of an environment. So it's kind of no different than, really, I look at it like a real estate person would, is I look at it like you have a multiplex of facilities that you have the ability to use in ways. And those are the best. Anytime you're in real estate and you can have multi-purpose places that can be used for, business, can be used for a rental, it can be used for entertainment space, whatever. You got all these different things you can do with them, and you can money with whatever you want to do with it because it's zoned for mixed purpose or mixed use. That's great, especially when you're building. If you want to take something and say, I want to build some of it to be condos, I want to build some of it to be restaurants, and some of it to be business space over here, and then I'm going to slap a gas station up over here and soccer field right over here. And that's why we put a soccer field here, because you had to have a soccer field for Cristiano. I mean, you can't really have Cristiano here on your team unless you've got a soccer field, man. Yeah. So, we got a soccer field. And so, so there's, again, all these ways that we're using it. So all the things I just mentioned there, all those ways to monetize it there. But again, we could rent the space and say, hey, it's open to really anybody if we want it to be. We could real estate agents or finance people or teletherapy. I mean, it's kind of limitless. And now that people have realized they can keep making, like from Dave Austin saying, out here still rocking and rolling it more so than I was, and I'm making on our side, still selling houses, doing better than we did before. And it's crazy to think you could do it and it's all virtual and people never physically came and saw that house until they moved into it. So it's kind of like, wow, I would never have thought that. Those would have been things I would never have been able to even wildest dreams say, oh yeah, people would. But it's amazing what people will do when they're put under that pressure and they have to be creative and they have to continue to generate an income and move forward with life. And find ways of connecting. So one of the biggest values in virtual for me, though, is not only, again, revenue streams and the way you can make money. And I will say this, I can't think of every way. We haven't thought of every way. I'm watching a lot of people use it in different ways, from Zoom included. There's people who've just done Zoom conferences, and those are pretty static with what you do. You've just got mainly a screen, and that speaker's up there, then they're gone, and it's the next one, and then they're gone, and then the next one. And you got some breakout stuff you can do, but you don't really have this networking and this feeling of connecting to one another and be able to just talk face to face and meet people from all over the world that you so there's just huge value in that you get to stay human as much as you possibly can when you're being forced to distance, or there's parameters put on that say, hey, right now we can't do things this way. So it's great that we can stay human and do things that make us feel more humanized with connecting to each other and running around here and laughing and smiling and watching people dance. I don't know why, you get the biggest kick when people kick on their animations and they're doing the dance, or they're doing some cool little thing, or they're headbanging. It's fun, but it's silly, and things that people probably, I've never seen done in Zoom. I very rarely see people kind of cut up and cut loose in most of those environments. But here, I think there's something value, again, in being able to say, I have an avatar, which is me, but it's not me, and I don't have to worry about all of the physical attributes and all the, preconceived notions and ideas people may or may not have. But I'm actually able to be here. Hey, now I'm all thinking about is how can I just communicate? Can I talk and connect with somebody and not really worry about all that? So it's been neat to see some people who aren't normally as outgoing or as gregarious that I know just run around this place and just connect and talk to people. So what a huge value there, just to kind of get rid of all of those insecurities, be able for people to really come and open up and network. So there's huge value there. There's huge value in maintaining relationships. And really two of my business partners, one, Vinny, I've known for years. So I've met and hung out with Vinny many, many times, and missing going to our favorite Chinese buffet place we got. And so hopefully soon we got to get out there. Tony, I know of Tony, but I've never been able to say, hey, brother, man, so, and Cristiano's in Brazil. So, I've never seen him, even though I think he stayed at one of my houses here that I mentioned. So I got Cristiano, who actually stayed at one of my places here in Nashville. But I've never physically met him or hugged his neck or shaken his hand, physically. But here we are in business together, talking and reaching out to people all over the world, and collectively, bringing our talents and our creativity together. And this place did that. Really, this place is allowing us to do you can't even put a price tag on that kind of value, where you can build businesses and relationships with people in a meaningful way that you would never have thought of. And again, we've been bringing on people here all the time. Every day, it's just a few more people here and there. We're getting them in. They're getting excited. They're wanting to show their people and bring it back. So I would encourage you guys, again, this is kind of a part one. I wanted to just kind of do, I think we found this out, Vinny and I, as we were talking, almost have to do part one and part two of what we're talking about, because I wanted to talk about the overview of just kind of like the 30,000 foot view, and then talk about some of the reasons and ways we're connecting the dots on our end and why, and kind of give the why of what we're doing. And as it expands out, but the part, when we get in my part two, I want to do really breaking down, really almost a breakdown of every piece of how to monetize. So it's probably going to be like 30 different ways make money in this, using not only our space, pretty much every virtue, but I'm going to hone in here because I'm a little bit biased, and I really like our place, and I like what we're doing, and I'm really excited about it, and I want to get the word out, and I want us to, have the world see this and see what we're trying to do, because it's bigger than just having a place to do events and make money. It's a way to reconnect the world and reignite that creativity. And that's why we call it the Spark, because we wanted to have a place that you could, where people were feeling like they were just losing a little bit of that, reignite and rekindle that spark with each other, relationally and creatively, for coming up with ideas. I mean, that's part of what I love being here too. I know that you guys feel the same way. It's just the brainstorming and the ideas and the creativity that, because we're creative beings. It's how we're wired. We're built to be that way. So when we get to, when we don't get to do that, there's a huge part of us that's lost. But when we get to be here doing that and use that part of who we are, especially when you're creative. Some people obviously have opened that Pandora's box a little wider on the creative side, especially in the creative spaces of what we're all used to. But so anyway, I want to again welcome everybody to do a little brainstorming with me here, at least with our core group. And probably just, if you want, just we'll unmute, and then if you guys just want to throw it out there. But I'm looking for, what ideas, unless if you got a question first, raise your hand. But I think most of us, a lot of us that are here, I've talked with most of you quite a few times. So if you don't, cool. But I want to say, right now it's just the last few days and things we've been working on, and even today. And if you got something in your hopper you've been thinking about, anybody got any ideas on ways you would want to start using this place, or you could think of how to creatively monetize this place? So I'll leave it up there. Who's going to go? I know, Vinny, you can't go forever. You can come up here and do a teaching yourself. So got to limit it to one or two. I would say that to most of you. Give me like one or two things to get started.
Well, I would say that the thing for me is that telling everybody know exactly how they can monetize it is the most important thing. Even talking to my interns and telling them, if you wanted to run a weekly songwriter night and you brought hit songwriters in, we can monetize that. You can get that sponsored and you can make money off of that. It can be that simple. It doesn't have to be a grandiose event. It doesn't have to be anything amazing like that. It can be very, very simple. But first of all, when we have a membership, then that makes it really easy to do any kind of event like that. And at the same time, any kind of event that somebody does for that is going to draw more people in. So they can monetize it in other ways. So to me, it's not about us coming up with ideas. It's about tapping into all the creativity, all the people that have been here, even just in this room, and the ideas that people would have. You mentioned a bunch of them when you were talking to them. We could do stuff for real estate. We could do this. There's no limit to it. And I think that everybody needs to realize that they can be the one who takes advantage of that. It doesn't have to be us coming up with the ideas and running the events ourselves.
Totally agree. On top of that too, I'll say, you've got to be, especially if you're trying to succeed in anything, you've got to be, you've got to be an instigator, you've got to be an educator, and you got to be a stop procrastinator. You can't, I know that's silly, it doesn't really work, but, and I'd say that to the staff, the interns, and everybody we're bringing in here, there's a lot of people who've got, and really have been on the verge of just having going out the doors, everything they've ever wanted to do. And I think the only time I've ever seen, measurable and noticeable and quantifiable consistent success is when, again, like everything you just said, get your mind going on stuff, come up with ideas. Don't let anything stop you. Don't make, don't let your excuses shut down the different ways, because we don't know. A lot of times I might try to explain, like I've had great conversations with people say, that's a great idea, but just think it through, this way and try to line this up. But the biggest thing you're going to do is you got to just get people in here first, or you got to bring people to the table. You've got to be able to be an instigator kind of for yourself, instigate yourself to get out there and let people know. I find out a lot of times people wonder why, things don't happen, because it always takes time for things to grow and build, but you got to keep, you just got to keep knocking the doors and hitting the, beating the rug, as they say. And what'll happen is that people, because you got to drip on people enough times. I think they say nowadays, just because everybody's so inundated with the marketing and internet stuff, just everything we get hit with, it might take anywhere from 5 to 7 to 10 times somebody hears something before they finally go, I got it, and I can figure out how to plug this in. Especially for some of the younger interns and staff, be sharing it with everybody, because the best thing you can do is get them in here, because it's going to force you then to get out of your comfort zone on being, marketing and on sales. And you never really sell. We always sell because everybody sells everything. If you love a favorite band or a favorite food, you're like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. You got to go to this. You're selling right there. You're selling somebody. You're in a sales mode. You're pitching. So for people to go, I don't know how to sell. It's like, take whatever you love the most, and how many times you've told people that they ought to go do that because it's the best thing ever. It's your favorite band ever, and they should go listen to it and sell it. So it's the same thing when you get excited about something, just get out there, be an instigator, instigate. One of my favorite people, and hopefully he'll hear this, sometime, is Rich Redmond, plays the drum for Jason Aldean. That guy is just great energy, great attitude, just the coolest guy, most positive person you want to be around, but he's always doing stuff. He's calling people, he's talking to people, and it's not a negative. It's a positive thing the way he does it because he's excited. He doesn't overpush it. He's like, man, you got to check this. Is awesome, man. You got to come check this out, man. I really love you. Yeah, man. But he's also an educator. So if you bring people in here, or if you're trying to explain to them what it is, I wouldn't even try to explain it. I would just try to tell people, listen, let me just get you in here and show you. I try to explain it to people and they start going, man, that just sounds huge and massive. I can't even, I'm like, you're not going to be able to. I'm going to have to bring you here when you kind of that Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. As soon as, we do the little musical lock and then you open the door and you go, there it is. And people go, I get it now. I see it. So, but, bring them in and then educate them on, hey, here's how we're using the place. Here's some of the things we're doing. Here's the ways you can monetize. Like Vinny just said, here's all the different things we've thought of, but you're going to think of a million other things we can't. And then just don't procrastinate. Don't sit around talking about doing it and you just never get to it. You got to put it on your to-do list like every night. Write those 5 things you want to get done for the day out. Write those things down. And the next day, man, if you do anything, get 2 of them done. 2 or 3 of those big things done. And if you have to carry over, carry the 1 or the 2, carry it over to the next day, add a couple more. Just always be doing something. They say that people who really have the best success in life are people who write down their goals and write down what they're trying to accomplish on a regular basis. And then they look at that list and they prioritize it and check it off. And then they move on and check it off. You're not going to get it all done all the time, but if you do that and you start doing those kind of things and then bringing people, and it's how it is. Nobody can ever, get excited or know what they could possibly do here if they never got a chance to be. Who's next?
Yeah, if you allow me to bring something to the table, I think the beauty of this world that we have right now is that we force the people to get out of the copy paste mode, because here we have the possibility to people to engage with each other, to network, to talk, because I really think the opportunities are created through talk, through collaboration, through one bringing another way to think differently for the other one. So that's the beauty of this campus, because we can do this in the physical world. We can, but here we have some, I don't know, we have more ways for us to do that, because we have a lot of things that we can meet people from all over the world through every kind of ability. So that's the easy way for us to connect to a lot of brilliant people here. So that's the beauty of that. So let's quit the copy paste mode and start networking. So let's connect the world and let's create the famous black swan. So let's create a new future for everybody.
I love it. Let's connect the world. I like that. And you're better than copy and paste. You're more valuable than copy and paste. That's true, because it's really not a cookie cutter thing anymore. There's really it being in here. I mean, it's I took it as a compliment when Michael P was telling us the other day, like, hey, a couple of people who may or may not be kind of people are your competitors. We're like, nah, we're not really competing with anybody. I mean, it is what it is. We're going to all grow and figure it out together, and hopefully we'll help each other on a lot of ways we're doing things and have our, our own peeps that are kind of in it. But it was the form of flattery when they're like, yeah, they were doing a bunch of stuff over in their place that you guys are doing. Did you guys, who came up with that? I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. What's great is, again, we're not copy and pasting this, man. It's not a cookie cutter thing. There's all these ideas that we've had, they've had, and the people who were doing it before us have had. And so that's what I mean. It's the encouragement is just to get everybody, and we all have a lot of, passionate, conversations and stuff, but out of that, Cristiano, I agree. I'm always blown away by, and I probably come across like the most intense dude ever, and most of the time I'm just smiling and off to the side, thinking of some goofy joke I want to say, that I'm holding myself back from, so because I just got a horrible sense of humor that I think is funny, but every once in a while, Tony laughs every once in a while, so he makes me feel better. I think he just does that to make me feel better, which I appreciate from Tony. But No, but I agree. It's like those conversations is what's sparking and igniting the spark, because I can't tell you how many ideas I've had by you guys just talking, and somebody says something, and I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, and then kind of all just beat around the edges and eventually knock that piece of Play-Doh into shape, and then by the time we're done, we're like, hey, that's a really cool thing, and nobody had thought about it before. So yeah, I love that, and there's a lot of amazing things. Even I wish he would have been. I don't know if he was in here today or not, or if he's still here. But when Sam was, I had a chance to talk to Sam and hear everything that he's doing, which is just amazing. So he's got a lot of beautiful things that he's doing out there, and he's already, again, they're just amazing to hear his creativity, the ideas he's already having for using it for here, from the real world to here. And so anyway, exciting times and exciting stuff. And again, I'm glad to be part of it. So again, thanks for being here, listening to me ramble a little bit. And like I said, I'm gonna do a part 2 that's gonna really, I think, break down, just so I can more list it and we can use it for our team and for other people we're bringing in and working with, that have a little more formal, like here's all of the different ways, at least so far. We'll have it as a running list, like here's just great ways to monetize and generate revenue and use the place. So it doesn't hurt to have that, so people can kind of get there, see that list and go, oh man, get the wheels turning on the different ways they can use it. But again, thanks again for letting me share a little bit with you guys. Unless anybody's got anything else.